Across the sun-drenched streets of Los Angeles, where the pulse of creativity beats beneath every subway grate and spray-painted alleyway, a quietly revolutionary discovery was made. One that would send shockwaves through the polished halls of Forrester Creations and crack open the tightly guarded legacy of the world's most prestigious fashion dynasty. It all began when Donna Logan, ever the intrepid chronicler of her family's triumphs and tribulations, decided that the Logan memoir she intended to publish should be more than a mere celebration of runway triumphs and romantic entanglements. She wanted to unearth the hidden roots of the Forrester lineage itself. Driven by a mixture of journalistic fervor and the desire to preempt any rival's attempt to monopolize the Forrester backstory, she quietly retained the services of a discreet private investigator renowned for his ability to pry secrets from the ironclad vaults of high society. What the detective uncovered surpassed even Donna's most ambitious expectations. Buried in the archives of a small church in New Mexico was the baptismal record of a boy born to Eric Forrester nearly 20 years ago, the offspring of an impulsive fling with a young artist who had passed through the Forrester Ranch on a brief modeling assignment. The boy, whom we will call August, though he himself would soon be given his true name, had been quietly adopted by a local artisan couple with no knowledge of his illustrious bloodline, and had grown up to become a gifted street muralist, his work celebrated in underground art circles, but completely unknown to the fashion elite. When Donna received the dossier complete with birth certificates, anonymous correspondence between Eric and the boy's adoptive mother, and faint but unmistakable watermarks of Forrester Creations on confidential letters, she felt a thrill of vindication. The Logan Spencer Forrester triumvirate had always believed itself unique in its blend of passion and pedigree, but now there existed a living, breathing proof of Eric's youthful indiscretions, a son who could legitimately stake a claim to the Forrester name. Donna, wary of the fallout that would burst upon the family like a cannonball, decided to keep the revelation under wraps until she could verify every detail. In the meantime, she dispatched a trusted associate to track the young man's whereabouts, only to learn that he had recently left Santa Monica and moved east into the heart of downtown LA, where his vibrant murals had begun to appear on derelict warehouses and the sidewalls of boutique cafes. His art, a hypnotic kaleidoscope of color and raw emotion, had attracted a small yet devoted following, including Hope Logan, who had arrived in LA to oversee a collaborative charity fashion show between Forrester Creations and a nonprofit that provided art supplies to underprivileged youth. One late afternoon, Hope wandered away from the glitz of the showroom floor and down an unassuming side street in search of inspiration for her next design. There, she encountered August in the middle of painting a vast mural that blended shredded denim with streaks of silk, an homage to the very fabrics Forrester Creations had popularized decades ago. His hands, stained with magenta and cobalt, moved with astonishing confidence as he wove high-fashion imagery into graffiti's rebellious grammar. Hope stood enthralled until August, feeling her presence, turned and smiled, his eyes wide with the innate sincerity that only someone unjaded by wealth could possess. They struck up a conversation, first about art, then about destiny, and finally about the curious blend of history and innovation that defined Forrester's legacy. August admitted he felt drawn to the house of couture he had never known, and Hope, moved by his raw talent, invited him to speak with the Forrester design team the next day. The spark between them was immediate, a fusion of hope and authenticity that compelled Hope to stay longer in LA amid the heat of pre-show preparations. She felt a kinship with him she had never experienced with any Forrester heir, as though his very existence were proof that creativity could spring from unexpected sources. But as dawn broke over the city, Donna's operative sprang the trap. He confirmed August's identity with a DNA sample matched to Eric's hospital records, and then notified Donna that her exposé was ready. When the Logan matriarch received the news, she panicked. If the story broke without warning, Steffi and Ridge would be blindsided. Forrester Creations' board would erupt in scandal, and the carefully cultivated image of a seamless dynasty would fracture under the glare of tabloid headlines. Donna arranged an emergency meeting at the Logan residence, gathering Hope, Brooke, and a reluctantly summoned Liam Spencer to weigh their options. Hope's eyes widened as Donna laid out the documents. She turned pale at the realization that the charismatic street artist she had grown to admire was not merely an inspired talent, but her long-lost half-uncle. The room spun with the implications. August had a birthright claim to Forrester's assets, intellectual property, and even a voice in the creative council whose members decided the fate of every collection. Meanwhile, word of August's arrival reached Steffi, who was vacationing at her private villa in Aspen. When her assistant sent her a surreptitious video clip of Hope and August chatting intimately by the mural, her profile in the soft glow of dawn, Steffi's blood ran cold. She dialed Ridge's number with hands that trembled, her composure cracking for the first time in years as she demanded to know why Ridge had never mentioned this brother, and why Hope had taken him under her wing. Ridge, confronted with the same dossier and the bewildered faces of the Logan clan, felt his core shatter. He had always believed he was the firstborn son, the natural successor to his father, groomed to carry the Forrester torch. Now, a 20-year-old outsider stood poised to claim a slice of the empire he had inherited at birth. Steffi descended on the Forrester Creations offices like a storm, her fury directed at Hope's back for daring to shelter August and at Ridge for his father's transgressions. "This is our family's legacy you're playing with," she spat, her emerald eyes flashing. "You can't just hand the keys to some street kid you met." Hope, chastened but unbowed, reminded Steffi that talent and integrity, not blood alone, had earned her Eric's trust, and now that legacy deserved to be shared with every true heir, even one born in secrecy. At the same time, Thomas Forrester, who had been nursing his own bruised ego after losing favor with both Hope and Steffi, saw in August an opportunity to elevate himself. Thomas, who had long resented Hope's meteoric rise since the yacht accident and had envied Steffi's unchallenged position, began meeting August in private under the guise of welcoming him to the family. He spun tales of Forrester's history laden with resentments toward the Logan clan, suggesting that August join him in a quiet coup to wrest control of the company from the Spencer-Logan axis. Thomas promised mentorship in the language of couture and whispered that Ridge would be grateful for August's alliance against Hope, who had encroached on Thomas's romantic designs and professional ambitions alike. August, vulnerable to the allure of belonging and flattered by Thomas's attentions, hesitated, torn between the earnest loyalty he felt toward the cousin who had welcomed him and the seductive promise of rapid advancement on Thomas's side. The drama escalated as Ridge, penned between Steffi's wrath and Thomas's intrigue, sought counsel from Eric himself, still recovering from the strain of his long-hidden secret. Eric, witnessing his children's bitter infighting and regretting the pain his youthful liaison had caused, preached unity and compassion, urging Ridge to embrace August as family. But with legal action looming, Donna had threatened to publish her memoir immediately unless a controlled revelation was orchestrated. Eric realized that unless they moved quickly, the Forrester name would be sullied by scandal rather than celebrated for its innovation. With the runway debut of the new collection just days away, Eric called an unprecedented family summit in the glass-walled boardroom overlooking the Pacific. Under flickering fluorescent lights, parrying accusations and desperate appeals, the truth of August's birth emerged in all its messy glory. Steffi, guilt-ridden and paranoid, insisted August be barred from any decision-making body until his loyalty was proven. Thomas, unable to conceal his scheming, found his whispered promises of power exposed when Hope produced texts and voice memos in which he had dangled the prospect of stripping Hope of her role in the Creative Council. Ridge, torn between blood and devotion, defended August's claim to a rightful voice, insisting that Forrester's true strength lay in its willingness to embrace every visionary mind, legitimate or newfound. In a climactic moment that echoed through the marble corridors, Eric leaned forward from his wheelchair, his voice steely despite his exhaustion. The soul of Forrester Creations is not measured by the purity of its lineage, but by the breadth of its vision. August is my son, and as long as he honors the craftsmanship and creativity this house was built upon, he has a place here. We will not be defined by secrets, but by the courage to turn them into strength. The boardroom erupted, some in cheering, others in stunned silence. Steffi, tears pricking her lashes, recognized that her fear of dilution had blinded her to the novel energy August could bring. Thomas, chastened by his own ambition's exposure, watched as August stepped forward, hand trembling only slightly, and pledged his loyalty not to any faction, but to the Forrester name itself and to the legacy of innovation his father had cultivated. Hope, her heart alight with relief, welcomed August into the fold, reminding him that true family transcended the bonds of birth alone. It was forged in trust, respect, and shared dreams. And so, on the night of the runway show, the world watched in awe as the final model swept down the catwalk wearing a gown that incorporated August's signature street art motifs. Bold chevrons of spray-painted silk against the crisp tailoring of Forrester's heritage. In the spotlight stood Ridge, Steffi, Hope, Thomas, and August, united, imperfect, fiercely passionate, but irrevocably intertwined by the revelations that threatened to tear them apart only to draw them closer. Donna Logan, seated in the front row, let her recorder fall silent as she realized that the greatest story was not one of scandal, but of redemption, of a dynasty reborn through the very conflicts that had once threatened its existence. In that electrifying moment, beneath the flash of cameras and the thunder of applause, the Forrester name shed its burden of hidden sins and emerged triumphant, its future secured not by exclusion but by the bold embrace of every true heir, no matter how unlikely the birthright. As the echoes of applause still reverberated through the grand hall of Forrester Creations and the celebratory chatter swelled like the tide against the glass windows overlooking the Pacific, Ridge Forrester summoned the courage to step away from the jubilant throng that had come to applaud the bold new collection, born of both tradition and the fresh vision of his unlikely half-brother August. He retreated to the periphery of the room and found himself drawn to the quiet alcove where a single potted orchid, Brooke's favorite bloom, leaned toward a shaft of moonlight. His footsteps were soft on the marble floor as he reached out to touch one petal, as though seeking comfort in the delicate curve of nature's design. Behind him, the hum of celebration continued unabated. Ridge knew, however, that the true reckoning loomed just beyond the palace doors, in the shifting alliances and unsettled loyalties that still flickered in the hearts of those he loved most. Summoning a steady breath, Ridge turned to face Brooke Logan, who had slipped away from Hope's side, her porcelain complexion tinted with concern, and Taylor Hayes, whose warm, compassionate eyes held a cautious hope as she moved toward them, leaving in her wake the soft rustle of her designer gown. Ridge's heart pounded as he prepared to divulge the truth that would make or break not only his own future, but the fragile new equilibrium of the Forrester dynasty. He cleared his throat, his voice raw with emotion, and revealed that his newfound brother, August, was not the product of one of Eric's fleeting affairs with a fellow socialite or a muse of ponytailed intrigue, but rather the son of a woman who had served in the Forrester household. A young housekeeper of humble origins whose loyalty and discretion had kept the secret buried for 2 decades. Ridge spoke of a born-out-of-duty encounter in the early 2000s when, overwhelmed by the responsibilities of running a burgeoning fashion empire and grappling with his own burgeoning sense of self, Eric had found solace in the gentle kindness of this devoted employee. The union, though brief and fraught with the class divisions that define the Forrester name, had produced a son whom Eric had felt compelled to protect by quietly arranging for his care by a compassionate local family. Ridge's confession, delivered with quivering candor, hung between them like a candle flame in a vaulted hall. Brooke's eyes widened, the memory of her own clandestine motherhood echoing in the secret vaults of her heart, while Taylor's hand flew to her mouth as she realized that Eric's final masterpiece, his choice to entrust Hope with the secret sketchbook, had not only been a gesture of faith and talent, but also an unconscious bid to atone for the family's unspoken inequities. The knowledge that August's lineage traced back to a Forrester servant, someone whom the family had revered in private but never publicly acknowledged, struck Brooke and Taylor with twin waves of revelation. Brooke, who had spent a lifetime navigating the shifting sands of class and privilege, felt an unexpected kinship with the servant's son, whose genius had flourished on the rugged streets of Los Angeles rather than within the gilded catwalks of Beverly Hills. She recalled the whispered warnings she had once given Ridge about the pitfalls of power when wielded without compassion, and she now understood that Ridge's own sense of honor had driven him to protect August's anonymity, fearing that the Forrester name, if sullied by scandal or stigma, might crush the fragile spark of a young artist's raw promise. Taylor, herself a psychiatrist with an unerring capacity for empathy, recognized that the repression of this secret had been a deeper wound in the family psyche than any couture betrayal. She recalled her own battles with Ridge's reluctance to confront emotional truths and knew that this revelation, if embraced rather than repudiated, could mark a genuine evolution for the dynasty. The two women exchanged a glance infused with compassion and resolve. Brooke, placing a gentle hand on Ridge's shoulder, spoke first. "Ridge, my love, I see now why you bore this burden alone. You were protecting August from the cruel judgment of the world you inhabit, and you were shielding the Forrester name from a truth it wasn't ready to honor. But what matters now is not the past shame, but our willingness to embrace the full measure of who we are." Ridge felt a tremor of relief as Brooke drew him into a supportive embrace, her cheek warm against his ear. Taylor moved closer, her voice calm yet firm. "It's time to set the family free from its own legacy of secrecy." Eric's belief in Hope, his decision to entrust her with that final sketchbook, was an act of redemption, an invitation to redefine what legacy truly means. We can honor August's birthright without diminishing Steffi or Thomas or anyone else. This is about expanding the circle of love and creativity, not contracting it. As Ridge absorbed their words, his shoulders straightened for the first time in years. He imagined August standing before the Forrester board, head held high as the rightful son of fashion royalty and of simple, steadfast devotion. He pictured Brooke's memoir transformed not into a sensational exposé, but into a testament to the unexpected ways in which family is formed, through blood, but also through the generosity of heart. He saw Taylor's work ushering in a new era of emotional authenticity for the dynasty she had come to cherish. In that shared epiphany, a decision crystallized. Ridge would summon his family, Steffi, Thomas, Hope, and even Eric himself, to the Forrester estate the following morning, beneath the sprawling oaks that lined the driveway. And together they would craft a statement of unity that acknowledged every thread of their tangled history. He would ask Steffi to stand by August as a sister-in-law, to recognize his equal claim to the creative counsel, and to allow his streetwise ingenuity to intermingle with her refined vision. He would challenge Thomas to renounce the divisive games he had played and to extend a genuine hand of mentorship to the brother he had schemed to usurp. He would appeal to Hope's capacity for forgiveness, urging her to see August as both kindred spirit and testament to the family's resilience. And he would urge Eric to join them, not only as patriarch, but as the man willing to reconcile his youthful missteps with the compassion that guided his final days. As the moon dipped low on the horizon and the night's final guests drifted away, Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor stood in the courtyard, enveloped by the cool salt-kissed air. The manicured hedges cast long shadows, and the distant roar of the ocean reminded them that life, like fashion, was a constant tide of change. Ridge took Brooke's hand and Taylor's arm, feeling the warmth of their solidarity, and allowed himself, for the first time in decades, to believe that the Forrester name could evolve beyond the narrow confines of pedigree and entitlement. He looked to the sky, as if seeking Eric's silent blessing among the stars. In the hush that followed, Ridge knew that tomorrow's dawn would herald not just a family gathering, but the rebirth of a dynasty. One strengthened by the full embrace of its hidden truths and the boundless creativity that could only flourish when every voice, no matter how unexpected its origin, was honored and heard.